Francis Ford Coppola's 1972 Best Picture-winning masterpiece The Godfather is widely considered to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, film of all time. The Italian-American crime drama stars what today is considered an all-star ensemble cast, including the likes of Al Pacino, Robert Duvall, James Caan and Talia Shire. Of course, many of the actors in the film who became A-listers were up-and-coming at the time of the film's release. The one actor who had by far and away the greatest clout and was the biggest A-lister in the film was of course Marlon Brando, widely considered to be one of the greatest actors of all time and a pioneer of method acting. A man who revolutionized acting with performances in films like A Streetcar Named Desire, On the Waterfront and Viva Zapata. Funnily enough, Brando's star power was actually dwindling by the time the 1970s rolled around, as he had starred in a string of flops leading up to The Godfather, and his reputation as someone who was quite eccentric and difficult to work with was growing. As such, his performance as Don Vito Corleone, which would go on to be his best-known performance and considered one of the defining cinematic portrayals in Hollywood history, was actually a comeback for Brando. Brando won his second Oscar for his role in The Godfather, and the film was a huge success, with Coppola swiftly returning to the Corleone saga with The Godfather Part II in 1974, in which the Corleone family continues their business through the new head of the family, Vito's son Michael, after the death of Vito in the first film. The movie concurrently also takes a look at the early years of Brando's Don Corleone, from his days as a child growing up in Sicily to becoming a small-time mob boss. However, in the second film, Vito Corleone is played by Robert De Niro, who also won an Oscar for his performance. Now, Marlon Brando gave a career-defining performance in The Godfather, and though much of the cast of the first film returned for the second, such as Al Pacino and Robert Duvall, Brando doesn't. It's a creative decision that does make sense, of course, given that in the second film, Vito Corleone is of course much younger, and it seems common sense to have the role played by a younger actor. However, it is worth mentioning that Marlon Brando was 47 years old when he filmed The Godfather, not exactly a senior citizen, and he was aged up using makeup to play the role of an aging patriarch. Whilst perhaps not completely ideal, it might have been possible for the filmmakers to include Brando in the film as young Vito instead of De Niro. For comparison's sake, De Niro was 30 years old when he played Vito Corleone, and interestingly, the two actors are the only duo who have won Oscars for playing the same character. Regardless though, fans of The Godfather will of course remember a nostalgic flashback scene at the end of the second film in which the Corleone family sit at the dinner table awaiting Don Vito Corleone as it's his birthday. The scene includes the deceased sons of Vito, Sonny and Fredo, and the future husband of Vito's daughter Connie, Carlo. It's a throwback to simpler times in the family, but also highlights early tensions and even gives us some further context to the events in the first film, such as the fact that it was Sonny who introduced Connie to Carlo, a man who would abuse Sonny's sister and be part of an assassination plot which saw Sonny massacred in a flurry of bullets. Quite remarkably, Marlon Brando, who fans would have expected to pop up in a cameo role in this scene, doesn't appear at all, with Vito apparently entering his home off-screen and his family welcoming him away from the camera. We don't hear or see him, and the scene transitions to the next, and thus the chance to see Marlon Brando as Don Corleone again slips through our grasp. Of course, the actor's involvement isn't essential here, and one could argue his absence actually works in the film's favour on a thematic level. It might surprise you to learn then that Marlon Brando was actually supposed to be in The Godfather Part II, not as young Vito. Coppola always had Robert De Niro in mind for that part apparently, but during the flashback scene in the end, Brando was actually supposed to return with a cameo alongside James Caan and Gianna Russo, who played Sonny and Carlo respectively. Rumour has it that Caan was offered a more prominent role in the movie, but he turned it down, and agreed to do the cameo so long as he was paid the same amount of money as he was for playing the role in the original film, even though he was only on set for his cameo for about a day's worth of shooting at most. When it came to Brando, everything seemed set, but when it came to the day of the shoot, Brando failed to appear on set for his single day of shooting. It's stunning to think then that director Francis Ford Coppola actually wanted Marlon Brando in the film, and Don Corleone was set to make an appearance in what would have been the icing on the cake at the end of a masterpiece of a 3-hour and 20-minute film. But he just didn't turn up, and Coppola was forced to rewrite the scene on the day so that it would flow without Don Vito making an appearance. As to why Brando didn't show up for his one day of shooting, there could be a number of reasons why. Brando's disputes with film studios, usually over his salaries, are legendary, and when he filmed The Godfather, he was forced to take a salary that was much less than what he might have got, because his star power had waned and very few studios wanted to hire him. However, after his comeback as Vito Corleone, everything changed, and all of a sudden, Marlon Brando was back in the A-list, so he could do all sorts of bizarre things like turn down his Oscar win and make all sorts of crazy demands, such as getting paid $3.7 million plus a percentage of the film's gross for his role in Superman, which for him was a 12-day shoot, and he sued the studio over disputes over not getting the percentage he was owed, meaning his final takeaway was around $14 million for 10 minutes of screen time. And even then, he is reported to have been lazy on set and was criticized by the likes of Superman actor Christopher Reeve for phoning in his performance. And Brando's antics in his next and final re-team up with Francis Ford Coppola for Apocalypse Now are legendary, having not read the book the film was based on, being overweight when he showed up for the shoot, and having not memorized his lines, among other shenanigans. It is likely that Brando attempted to squeeze as much money out of his cameo in The Godfather II in order to recoup what he felt he might have lost by taking a reduced salary on the first film. Either that, or he was genuinely angry over the way he was treated by Paramount Studios in the first film, which was quite a turbulent shoot. Or maybe he just couldn't be bothered. But wait, there's more. In recent years, 2019 in fact, an unpublished letter has surfaced, written by Francis Ford Coppola and sent to Marlon Brando, in which it seems the film director was desperate to cast Marlon Brando as Vito, but not in the flashback scene, but in the entire film, offering the 49-year-old Brando the role of the 25-year-old Vito. And it turned out this was an offer he could refuse, because he did. This letter was obtained by the Daily Mail, and for non-UK viewers, I can tell you that this newspaper is considered a tabloid rag, one of the least trustworthy papers in the country and notorious for spouting lies and half-truths. Therefore, I cannot confirm the authenticity of this letter, so take it with a pinch of salt. But it reads as follows. Dear Marlon, I heard you were back from the South Pacific, but I didn't want to call you because I always feel stupid bringing up the matter of The Godfather. I know you return my calls on a personal and friendly basis, so I can't bring myself to misuse that and bring up what is bothering me. My problem is simply that I am stalling because I have the inkling that it may be possible that you will play the young Vito Corleone. I've seen in the past that even a slight possibility may blossom into a fact, and so I've tried to kindle this as best I could, but I've become a real behind-the-scenes monster, playing Yablans and Evans and Bloodhorn, trying to get them to do what I want. I tell Yablans that he's the only one who can do it, then I tell Evans the same thing. I tell them the movie cannot be made without you. I tell Yablans he has to apologize to you. Now Yablans says that he's trying to do this and get together on the money and the stuff, but you don't return his call. Evans wants to approach you, but Yablans is terrified that Evans might make it work where he failed, so he keeps preventing that. But what it really comes down to is me. Marlon, I respect you enormously, and if you told me that you did not want to do it under any circumstances whatsoever, of course I would accept that and never mention it again. And if you liked, I wouldn't tell anyone else. I learned a lot from you, one thing being that it's only a movie, and what's that compared to everything else there is in the world? At times, I really try hard to imagine what you're like in your thoughts. I realize that you've been in the strange state of adoration and exhibition for 25 years now, intensely. And I think that would have driven me crazy. And the fact that you're really a good man, and warm, and love people is a tremendous achievement considering that you've been in a glass box for half your life. I always tell you that, although it has nothing to do with this letter. All I'm saying is that if you will be in this movie, I will do my very best to make it be good. and human, and express the notion that the mafia is only a metaphor for America and capitalism, which will do anything to protect and perpetuate itself. I will do this anyway, if you're not in the film, but if you were in it, it would be better, and you would help me with your ideas as I work on the script. If you will not be in it, I will love you no less. All I ask is to please tell me without the shadow of a doubt. I am very happy, having a terrific time up here. After this film, I am quitting the movie business and will do other things that I am excited about that may involve film. Sincerely, Francis. I don't know if this letter is true. There are many things about it that sound authentic, and there are few eye-raising elements. It could just be a very good fake. So what do you make of all of this? Would you have liked to see Marlon Brando reprise his role in the Godfather sequel? Do you think it would have had a major effect on the film? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.